Chapter 3, The Intruder. Sophia shook her head in amazement. How could such an unassuming device repair her timeline? She was about to ask T.C. to explain how it worked when her attention was suddenly diverted to the view screen in the center of the train's control panel. What do all those lines represent, T.C.? T.C. smiled right away as though he had been waiting for her to ask. I thought you might be wondering about those, miss. I like to call them time tracks. Sophia's eyes widened. Time tracks? What do they do? T.C. pointed to one of the many sets of intersecting lines. Well, Miss Sophia, you see the X and Y axis here represent a Cartesian coordinate. Sophia caught her breath in surprise. She was certain that one of her algebra teachers, Mr. Swanson, had mentioned Cartesian coordinates in class. As she continued to study the lines on the view screen, she suddenly remembered. Cartesian coordinates represented the location at one point relative to another point. Sophia wondered breathlessly if she had come to the right conclusion. T.C. Are these coordinates by any chance mapping out the addresses of different locations in space and time? What I mean is, are these the coordinates for other time portals, like the one we are in right now? T.C. looked at her appreciatively. Why yes, they surely are, Miss Sophia. These lines do indeed represent the coordinates to other time portals. As a matter of fact, they are part of something larger called ley lines that connect the universe much like an energy grid, and when everything is working properly things go along just fine, but when there is any kind of disruption to a timeline, that is when folks like me get called in. Sophia's mood quickly sobered as she thought about her parents, Daniel, Spencer and all the other people in her timeline who had no idea that their lives had been tampered with. So, T.C., do you know who did it? Do you know who caused the damage to my timeline? T.C. nodded. Well, yes, Miss Sophia, as a matter of fact I believe I do have a pretty good idea who did it, and if I am right, he is what we time conductors call a time bandit. A reckless and bad lot for sure, miss. Always manipulating time to their own ends and paying no heed for the consequences to others. Sophia swallowed nervously and reached for her canteen, noting with some alarm that her hand was shaking. What if whoever had brought her to the time portal had actually made a mistake in choosing her? After all, she had no special skills or abilities that she was aware of, and she certainly did not feel prepared to face any time bandits. For the first time since boarding Old Destiny, Sophia began to question her choice, not because she did not want to see her destiny come to pass, but because she was beginning to doubt now that she could fulfill it. Sophia had become so absorbed in her thoughts that she nearly jumped out of her seat when T.C. spoke again. Are you okay, Miss Sophia? Sophia smiled at T.C. apologetically. I'm sorry, T.C. I feel like I'm letting you down, or worse yet, letting myself down. It's just that I seem to be having some doubts now that I can do this. I mean, what if this time bandit comes after us? T.C. looked at her intently. Miss Sophia, you underestimate yourself. Why, just now you made the connection, with no help from me, that the Cartesian coordinates are mapping out the locations of other time portals. What you're doing is very brave, Miss Sophia, and everybody has moments of doubt, and even moments when they might be thinking of turning back, and so to rightly answer your question, if there has to be any confronting to be done, you have my word, miss, you won't be alone. I was going to wait a little while longer before telling you this, but one of the other two who have been chosen from your timeline has also been assigned to be your protector. Sophia sat bolt upright on the edge of her seat. I have someone assigned to be my protector? Oddly enough, she had an idea right away of who it might be, but how? Spencer had all but fled the train station. Is it Spencer, T.C.? Before T.C. could answer, they were abruptly interrupted by the loud high-pitched ringing of an alarm from somewhere inside the train. The sound was unbearably deafening, and Sophia covered her ears before giving T.C. a pleading look. Lunging forward in his seat, T.C. reached over to manually shut off one of the switches on the main control panel, and within seconds the alarm mercifully stopped. I'm mighty sorry about that, Miss Sophia. That alarm only goes off when there is an intruder in the time portal. Sophia froze, seized with panic. Is it the time bandit already? T.C. went over to the window of the high cab and looked out. Sophia could tell right away by his tense reaction that something out of the ordinary was happening. "Please T.C. what is it?" Her heart was beating so rapidly that she feared she might faint. It did help though that T.C.'s voice was amazingly calm as he instructed her. "Miss Sophia, I need you to hide the Rift Locator." Sophia's breathing became labored as an even bigger wave of panic washed over her, but with an effort she pulled herself together. Even though her hands were shaking, she retrieved the device from the built-in table. She then grabbed her jacket and hastily stuffed the device into one of the pockets before putting it on. Slightly out of breath, she miraculously regained her composure just in time before the intruder entered the train. At the sight of him, Sophia had to will herself not to scream. He was a forebodingly gaunt and tall figure wearing a long gray trench coat and a pair of long gray gloves. Sophia thought his attire very odd and unsettling. She noticed a cold flint-like gleam of indifference in his eyes and shivered. He spoke in a low and raspy tone. "Where is it, Flanagan?" Momentarily confused, Sophia remembered that T.C. was a nickname. The figure took a menacing step in their direction, and Sophia caught her breath. Without a word, T.C. swiftly, as though she were light as a feather, propelled her behind him and reached back protectively with one arm to shield her. "Why bother with this charade, Flanagan? You know you are going to lose. This is my timeline now and I will do with it what I please. Are you not aware that we have Daniel? There are precisely 3 breaches in this timeline, and you are going to need 3 of your devices to repair it, as well as 3 inhabitants from the original timeline." He stopped then and looked pointedly at Sophia. "She is here, so I know that at least one of the devices must be here as well." Sophia was horrified. He already knew who she was, and he had kidnapped Daniel. A silent prayer rose up within her then. Please God, keep Daniel safe. She thrust her hand into the pocket of her jacket and held onto the Rift Locator tightly. She understood better than ever now just how high the stakes were and that this horrid man must never get hold of the device. T.C. finally spoke in an even, controlled tone, and Sophia could not help but marvel at his continued calm under so much pressure. "None of the devices are here. You are wasting your time." Sophia cringed as the Time Bandit's cold eyes flashed with anger. "What do you take me for, Flanagan, a fool?" Sophia moved in closer to T.C., feeling more out of her depth by the moment. "You cannot succeed without Daniel, and the other one has given in to fear. What can you and this pitiful girl possibly do? As I said before, you are going to lose." When T.C. spoke again, there was a sharp edge to his voice that Sophia had not heard before. "You best take your leave. You are not welcome here." The intruder took a step backward at his words, but he did not leave right away. Sophia shuddered as his eyes searched the entire interior of the cab slowly and deliberately, and Sophia instinctively knew that he was hoping to spot the Rift Locator. With her heart thumping wildly in her chest, she clutched the object in her pocket, praying that he would not think of looking in her jacket. After a few more unbearably tense and long moments, and just as Sophia was beginning to wonder if he would ever leave, he finally moved toward the entrance of the cab. "Next time we meet I will not be so tolerant, old man." At his words an unexplainable gust of wind filled the interior of the cab, and the intruder was gone, as though he had vanished into thin air. Sophia stared in open-mouthed astonishment at the empty space where the intruder had stood just moments before. She made her way back to the passenger seat and sank heavily into it with a sigh of relief. T.C. followed suit and resumed his seat before turning and looking at her intently, and his brow was furrowed over with worry as he spoke. "I surely do hope that you are okay, Miss Sophia. I can assure you, miss, that this was not the way that I wanted your first meeting with the Time Bandit to go." Sophia gave T.C. what she hoped was a reassuring smile. The encounter with the Time Bandit had definitely shaken her, but she was also oddly relieved to have gotten it over with. "Oh yes, please don't worry, T.C. I promise I really am okay. I will say though that I have never encountered anyone that scary before." T.C. nodded soberly in agreement. "For what it's worth, Miss Sophia, I think you were very brave, and you handled yourself exceedingly well." Sophia was both pleased and surprised to learn that T.C. had so much faith in her. "You really think so, T.C.? That means a lot to me coming from you, and T.C. I just want you to know that I believe I understand much better now just how important the Rift Locator is." Sophia's pulse quickened. She had nearly forgotten about the device in all the excitement. Holding her breath, she quickly checked her jacket pocket. Relief as her fingers made contact with the rough antenna edge of the device. Quickly retrieving the Rift Locator, Sophia studied it with a new respect and appreciation. As she was carefully setting the device down to rest once again on the table between their seats, a curious and unexpected thing happened. An unexpected deeper sense of responsibility and ownership came over her regarding her safety of the device. Sophia drew in a sharp breath, genuinely surprised by the intensity of emotion rising within her. She thought she had already committed fully to helping to restore her timeline, but her sense of commitment had apparently deepened as a result of the Time Bandit's unexpected visit. Thinking of just how much faith and trust T.C. had placed in her was humbling and a bit daunting. Suddenly seized with doubt and worried that she might not be up to the task, Sophia decided to broach the subject candidly. In all the excitement, T.C., I forgot that I had hidden the Rift Locator in the pocket of my jacket. I just thank God that the Time Bandit did not think to look there. Sophia caught her breath sharply as she suddenly remembered the menacing expression on the Time Bandit's face. Are you sure, T.C., that I am the right person to oversee the Rift Locator? I think the Time Bandit could have easily taken it from me if he had known where it was. Sophia was surprised at how quickly and emphatically T.C. answered her question. She also noticed a misty faraway look in his kind gray eyes that made her wonder just how much T.C. as a time conductor might know about her. Why, yes, Miss Sophia. I am quite certain that you will not only be able to properly use the device when the time comes, but that you will also act quickly on your feet just as you did today. I do want to add, however, that from this point on, it is my intention that we stay a step ahead of the Time Bandit from now on. Sophia nodded in vigorous agreement. In fact, she would be happy to never lay eyes on the Time Bandit again. It's not that I doubt you, T.C., but how in the world are we going to stay ahead of him? Especially since he can apparently appear and disappear. Sophia's pulse quickened at the awful thought of Daniel being held captive by the Time Bandit. And T.C., what are we going to do about Daniel? T.C.'s eyes were full of compassion as he gazed at her. Well, Miss Sophia, the thing is, if my intel is correct, Daniel was not exactly kidnapped. Sophia felt an immediate lump forming in her throat. Not exactly kidnapped? What do you mean, T.C.? T.C. continued on in a gentle tone. I sure do wish I could spare you this, miss, but I do believe that Daniel went willingly, at least at first. However, I also believe he most likely has changed his mind by now, and if Daniel has in fact changed his mind, he will surely be in sore need of our help. Sophia's heart began pounding loudly in her ears. I don't understand, T.C. Why would Daniel do anything so foolish? Why would he have gone anywhere willingly with the Time Bandit? It makes no sense. T.C. seemed uncomfortable as he cleared his throat before continuing. Well, under normal circumstances, miss, I am sure that he would not have, but I believe these circumstances involved a third party who most likely influenced him. Sophia swallowed nervously as the awful truth dawned on her. Then this third party is the reason that Daniel broke off our engagement? T.C. looked pained. I do believe so, miss, and if I am right, the Time Bandit is the one who sent this individual to Daniel specifically to keep him from assisting us in the restoration of your timeline. Sophia shuddered. She was beginning to really understand just how far the Time Bandit's interference in her life and Daniel's life had actually gone. So that means Daniel's new relationship is not even real? Sophia choked back a sob. How could Daniel have fallen for such a deception? Clearly things between Daniel and I could never have ever been what I thought they were. Sophia paused for a moment, struggling to regain her composure before continuing. However, he is still important to me, and the idea that he was intentionally deceived is very disturbing. The gravity of Daniel's situation hit her fully then, and Sophia jumped up out of her seat. What are we going to do about Daniel, T.C.? We must help him somehow. T.C. nodded emphatically in agreement. I am glad you feel that way, Miss Sophia, because I have already entered in the Cartesian coordinates for Old Destiny's next stop, and if my calculations are correct, they should take us directly to Daniel.